Okay, let's just dive right into this, because I want to take you back to a moment we all thought we understood perfectly. The peaceful lake at the end of Avengers Endgame. I want you to really put yourself back in that theater seat in 2019. Remember that feeling? Think about the sensory details of that final scene playing out in front of you. The quiet rustling of the leaves in the wind, the gentle glow of the setting sun over the water, the swelling emotional crescendo of Alan Silvestri's beautiful score. For years, everybody looked at that final frame like it was this beautiful, peaceful goodbye. A war-torn soldier finally getting to go home. But I've got to be honest with you, every single time I watched it again, I felt like something was fundamentally wrong. The atmosphere just felt heavy. I always felt that what we saw wasn't a man at peace, but a man completely paralyzed by a deeply buried fear. Not relief, not the satisfaction of a mission accomplished, but a quiet, looming dread. And now, looking back, I honestly believe that a massive, terrifying secret was being hidden right in that very frame, masking an absolute nightmare with a beautiful sunset.
Let me explain this, because we really have to understand how we were manipulated by the emotional closure of that entire era. We were all so desperate for a happy ending for Steve Rogers that we completely ignored the terrifying reality of what he had just done. But if you look closely at old Steve's eyes on that bench as he passes the shield to Sam, you do not see the satisfaction of a life well lived. You see absolute terror. He looks like a man who knows his time is up. And I honestly think the truth of an impending disaster has been sitting right in front of us the entire time. So what if the triumphant ending of Endgame was never really the ending at all? What if, structurally and narratively, it was actually the very beginning of the next catastrophic event? Let's break down exactly how this illusion shatters, and we're going to start at the exact location where we thought the story concluded.
I want you to picture this scene vividly, letting the tension slowly build. Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes, and Smart Hulk are standing nervously at the quantum tunnel. They're just waiting for Steve to return after dropping off those Infinity Stones. Listen to the low, mechanical hum of the quantum machine. Bruce Banner is tapping away at his monitors, and you can see a subtle panic slowly rising in his chest as the timestamps just aren't aligning. Sam is trying to stay calm. Bucky already senses something is terribly wrong. His combat instincts are completely flaring up. The seconds stretch into these agonizing minutes, and then suddenly, a violent, ear-piercing screech of temporal displacement echoes through the clearing. Reality itself shatters like glass. But the man who crashes through the trees isn't the elderly, peaceful Steve Rogers we saw on the bench. No, it's a young Steve Rogers, and he is severely bruised, he's bleeding, he's completely broken, and he is running for his absolute life. It's like reality itself violently rejected him and physically threw him back into this exact moment. When young Steve crashes into the clearing, struggling to even breathe, you immediately notice his iconic vibranium shield is cracked straight down the middle. He is terrified. But crucially, he's not scared for himself. He is terrified of what is hunting him. Bucky rushes forward, recognizing that specific look of absolute despair. It's a look he literally hasn't seen since the muddy trenches of World War II, far predating their entire war against Thanos. But before anyone can even ask what happened, before Bruce can run a diagnostic, Steve looks back into the dark, silent woods. He whispers a single word that freezes the blood of everyone present, a word that commands a suffocating silence. He whispers, Doom. I can almost hear the dead, heavy silence that follows that word. And in the background, sitting on that wooden bench, old Steve's hand begins to tremble. His knuckles turn white as he grips the wood, because he knows.
Now, consider the terrifying mechanics of how old Steve actually got there. We all just naturally accepted that he lived his life and returned peacefully to that bench to pass the torch. But think about it. The rules of the time travel system were completely ignored there. He didn't appear on the time platform like everyone else did. He didn't come back through the quantum tunnel. He was already sitting there. Actually, scratch that. He wasn't just sitting there, he was hiding. Old Steve knew Dr. Doom had been relentlessly hunting him across realities for years. He took the long way around, walking to that lake, sitting in the silence, and basically waiting for his executioner. That profound sadness we saw etched into his aged face, that wasn't peaceful retirement. It was crushing guilt. It was the devastating realization that his past was finally catching up to him, and he had just brought the devil straight to his friend's doorstep.
Think about it carefully, especially in the context of everything we know about the sacred architecture of time. This is what we call a branch reality trigger. By choosing to stay in the past with Peggy Carter and build a family, Steve Rogers didn't just take a well-deserved vacation. He shattered the timeline. He created a massive, highly unstable, malignant branch reality. He chose personal, selfish love over his temporal duty to the universe. And in doing so, he gave Dr. Doom, a man utterly obsessed with controlling, pruning, and dominating broken realities, a very specific reason to hunt him down. Doom doesn't view these fractured timelines as simple alternate choices. To him, they are aggressive cancers that threaten the health of all existence. And Steve accidentally created the most dangerous tumor of all.
And this leads us to a heartbreaking revelation that grounds this massive cosmic event in pure human emotion. The glimpse of young Steve with a son isn't just simple nostalgia. It's not just a sweet callback to the life he always wanted. I think this child is the absolute emotional core of this entire tragedy. Young Steve isn't just running to save his own skin. He is desperately trying to protect his son. Imagine the crushing weight on this man's shoulders. The ultimate Boy Scout, the guy who always sacrificed himself for the greater good, is suddenly carrying the guilt of a collapsing universe, all to protect the one selfish thing he ever allowed himself to have. This child is a living anomaly from a broken reality. A reality Steve watched burn, and now he is desperately trying to save the only piece of it he has left.
I can already picture the scene changing from initial shock and confusion to pure, unadulterated horror. The ambient noise of the forest just completely dies. The wind stops. The air pressure drops so low it literally hurts their ears. And then, Doom steps calmly out of the darkness. There are no dramatic glowing portals here, no loud bombastic explosions, just the heavy, rhythmic thud of metal boots on dirt. Take a moment to visualize his armor in agonizing detail. It isn't shining or polished, it is deeply scarred, covered in the ash of a dozen dead universes from a long, exhausting hunt across the multiverse. He doesn't feel like a standard, dramatic villain making a grand theatrical entrance. He steps through the trees with the quiet, terrifying inevitability of a Grim Reaper arriving to collect a long overdue debt.
And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute hopelessness of the moment. There is no heroic buildup here. There's no rallying cry, no Avengers assemble, just brutal, terrifying destruction. Doom instantly, effortlessly swats Smart Hulk backward into the quantum machinery like he's a minor inconvenience. Bucky charges with a primal yell, but Doom simply catches his vibranium arm mid-punch, twisting it and crushing it into the ground like it's made of cheap tin. Then, without uttering a single word, without a classic villain monologue or a sneer, he lifts Sam Wilson off the ground by the throat. It completely strips away all the comfort and security we felt at the end of Endgame in a matter of a few brutal seconds, replacing it with the chilling reality of absolute consequence. This creates a living, psychological nightmare on screen. Let the horror of this framing really sink in for a second. Old Steve sits helpless on the bench, his aged body completely unable to fight, watching the man he just entrusted with his shield suffer and suffocate. Young Steve stands nearby, clutching his son, realizing his selfish choices have directly doomed another generation of his friends. Two Captain Americas, helplessly watching from opposite ends of their lives, and Dr. Doom simply stands between them, as the physical, unstoppable embodiment of their consequences. Emphasize this in your mind. Doom isn't just hurting Sam out of anger or malice, he's doing it as a punishment. He is forcing Steve to look at exactly what his desire for a normal life has cost the universe.
So the crucial point here is that Steve's actions perfectly align with the devastating ongoing themes we've been watching unfold. Think about the first incursion. We loudly judged Wanda Maximoff for breaking reality to find her children, right? We judged Doctor Strange for bending the rules of time for his own desires. But we gave Steve Rogers a complete free pass because we loved him. We cheered for him. We wanted him to be happy. But changing reality for personal reasons inevitably destroys everyone else. Steve Rogers, the ultimate symbol of selfless sacrifice, was actually the first one to cross the line. His desperate, deeply human need for a normal life made him the trigger. He pulled the pin on the multiversal grenade that started the first true incursion event.
This completely recontextualizes old Steve's behavior in a way that is genuinely terrifying. Remember that sweet, private smile when Sam originally asked old Steve about his wife? Steve softly replied, "No, I don't think I will." We all thought it was a sweet, private moment of a man keeping his precious memories to himself. But I realize now, this wasn't for privacy at all. It was a desperate, paranoid cover-up. What if that wasn't nostalgia in his eyes? What if it was absolute paranoia? He couldn't speak her name. He knew that speaking about that fragile timeline, even acknowledging it out loud in this reality, could act like a flare. He was terrified that whispering her name would draw Doom directly to that symbolic lake where he had tried to escape his responsibilities.
The stakes become infinitely higher and much darker when we focus on the chilling logic regarding Steve's son. Let's lean into the cold mathematics of Dr. Doom's mind here. If Steve lived a life that was explicitly never supposed to happen, according to the timeline, his son technically should not exist. To Doom, this child isn't a boy. He is a mathematical error, a walking, breathing tear in the fabric of existence, the ultimate living anomaly. Doom doesn't just want to kill Steve out of revenge. Doom believes he absolutely must destroy this child to stop reality from unraveling entirely. Destroying him isn't an act of malice. To Doom, it is necessary multiversal surgery. It's a chilling calculation that removes all humanity from the equation.
That is what makes Doctor Doom terrifyingly understandable, and it's the hallmark of the greatest, most devastating narratives. He forces us to stop, look at the devastation, and genuinely question if he's actually right. I mean, is he the monster or the immune system? We are left watching young Steve begging on his knees in the dirt for his son's life, while old Steve realizes with absolute horror that his one single selfish lifetime of happiness directly caused the destruction of countless worlds. The greatest hero we know is technically the villain of this story, and the villain is the exterminator just trying to save the house. It's an impossible moral choice that tears these characters apart from the inside out. And here is where we reach the most devastating, emotionally shattering cinematic moment imaginable. Old Steve, watching this slaughter, watching his friends fall, slowly stands up from the bench. With trembling, aged hands, he picks up that fractured shield and straps it to his arm one final time. He doesn't do it because he thinks he can physically overpower Doctor Doom. There's no way. He knows his bones will break. He knows he has absolutely zero chance of winning. But he does it because he knows he must jump on the grenade. Only this time, it is a grenade of his own making. It is the ultimate tragic bookend, the completion of his character arc, stepping up to take fatal responsibility for the very disaster he birthed into the world.
Let's look closer at the actual mechanics of this hunt. How did Doom actually track Steve across the infinite expanse of the multiverse? When Steve volunteered to return the Infinity Stones, we assumed it was a clean process. But because Steve carried all 6 stones across time, he unknowingly left massive quantum scars everywhere he went. Every single time he dropped a stone back into the time stream, he left a highly radioactive multiversal breadcrumb, a trail of temporal radiation. This turns the seemingly heartwarming quantum tunnel reunion into a massive, glowing neon sign in the multiverse. It points a giant target directly at their timeline, calling ultimate disaster to their doorstep without them even realizing it.
This breakdown really breaks my heart, but it is brilliant narrative design because it makes Captain America perfectly, tragically human. This takes a massive multiversal spectacle and grounds it in the most intimate heartbreak imaginable. For his entire existence, Steve sacrificed his body, his time, and his life for everyone else. But for once in his life, he chose something selfish. He chose peace. And this realization beautifully transforms the conflict. The universe didn't randomly fall apart because of an external alien threat. It collapsed because a good man finally asked for something in return. The universe punished everyone for his one moment of selfishness.
I firmly believe that as this unfolds, we're going to come to a chilling understanding regarding Doctor Doom's motivations. We have to ask ourselves directly, if you had the power to stop a cancer from destroying the entire multiverse, wouldn't you cut it out? Even if that cancer had Captain America's face? Doom isn't just destroying realities for the sake of cartoonish evil. In his mind, he is the savior. He believes Steve Rogers is the central fracture actively threatening all of existence. Stopping him and eliminating his anomalous family is the only logical way to prevent total multiversal collapse. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality that the villain might be the only one actually seeing the big picture.
I can see the final standoff perfectly, and it is beautifully, agonizingly restrained. No massive armies charging at each other across a battlefield. No giant sky beams, no chaotic explosions. Just old Steve Rogers, bleeding, facing Doctor Doom alone beside that peaceful lake as the morning sun slowly rises over the water. The serene light of dawn contrasting with the absolute bleakness of the situation. It's just 2 exhausted men standing on the edge of the world who have carried impossible burdens across time. One fighting to logically save existence, the other fighting to emotionally save his mistake. Steve accepting his ultimate responsibility in his fate, buying just enough time so young Steve and his son can have a fleeting chance to escape into the unknown.
And this leaves us with a genuinely haunting reality to consider. Look back at that beautiful, emotionally satisfying conclusion of Endgame, the swelling music, the slow dance with Peggy in the living room, the quiet passing of the shield by the lake. What if the most triumphant victory we ever witnessed was, in truth, the exact moment the multiverse began to die? It completely rewrites cinematic history, transforming our greatest victory into an irreversible tragedy, a ticking countdown to doomsday, hiding right there in plain sight behind a smile. So, what do you think? Did we miss the warning signs all along?